The debris field stretched across thousands of kilometers like a graveyard of metal and stone. Commander Zixtal pressed his four-fingered hand against the viewing port of the star's grace and watched the twisted remains of what had once been a solar system. The Kepler 442 system had died violently 3,000 years ago according to their records. Now only broken asteroids and shattered planets remained, spinning slowly in the cold darkness of space. The Velinary commander's purple skin rippled with concern as he studied the sensor readings. His ship was on a routine survey mission for the Galactic Council. They were supposed to catalog the debris and move on to the next dead system. It should have been simple work. But the sensors were showing something impossible. Science officer Krelvin approached with careful steps. The insectoid being's mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. Commander, the sensors are detecting energy signatures from Grid 7 Alpha. The readings suggest an active starship. Zixtal turned from the viewport. His large eyes reflected the blue glow of the ship's instruments. That cannot be correct. This system has been dead for millennia. Run a full diagnostic on the sensor. Array, I have already done so 3 times, sir. The readings are consistent. There is definitely a functioning vessel in that debris field. The commander moved to the main display where a 3-dimensional map of the surrounding space appeared. A small red dot pulsed steadily among the gray markers that represented asteroids and debris. The energy signature was weak but unmistakable. Something alive moved through the graveyard. Analysis of the vessel's construction? Zixtal asked. Krelvin's mandibles clicked faster. That is where the readings become truly disturbing, Commander. The ship's hull composition matches materials from a Class 15 Deathworld. The weapon signatures suggest technology that should not exist. A chill ran through Zixtal's body. Class 15 Deathworlds were theoretical nightmares in galactic classification. They were planets so hostile that no known sentient life could possibly evolve there. Worlds where the atmosphere was poison, where radiation levels would kill most. Species in minutes where the very ground was toxic. The Galactic Council had surveyed thousands of worlds and found none that truly qualified as Class 15. They existed only in computer models as examples of planets where life was impossible. Are you certain of this classification? The commander asked. The spectral analysis is clear. The ship's hull contains iron-nickel alloys common to high-gravity worlds with active volcanism. The energy readings suggest they use controlled fusion. Reactions for both power and propulsion. Their weapons appear to accelerate projectiles using electromagnetic fields to velocities that would tear apart most known armor. Zixtal felt his heart racing. 2 of them beat in his chest, a common trait among his species. Both were now hammering with fear and excitement. Set course for the energy signature. Maintain maximum shields and keep all weapon systems ready. The Star's Grace moved carefully through the debris field. The ship's advanced navigation systems worked constantly to avoid collisions with the floating rocks and metal fragments. Each piece of debris could destroy their vessel if struck at the wrong angle. The galactic ship was built for exploration, not for navigating hazardous environments. As they drew closer to the energy signature, the main screen began to resolve details of the unknown vessel. What they saw defied their understanding of starship design. The ship was long and angular, covered in what appeared to be crude armor plating. Burns and scars marked its hull, suggesting it had survived weapons fire that would have vaporized most galactic vessels. The ship appears to be moving deliberately through the debris field, Krelvin reported. Its trajectory suggests it is salvaging materials from the larger asteroids. Salvaging in this environment? Zixtal was amazed. The radiation levels in the debris field were high enough to require their own ship's heaviest shielding. The gravitational anomalies from the shattered planets made navigation extremely dangerous. Yet this unknown vessel moved through it all as if it were empty space. Suddenly, the alien ship changed course. It turned directly toward the star's grace and began accelerating. The movement was smooth and confident, showing no signs of the careful navigation the galactic ship required. Commander, they have detected us. the communications officer reported. "We are receiving a transmission on speakers." A voice filled the bridge. It spoke in sounds that no galactic species made. The words were harsh and sharp, full of consonants that clicked and growled. The universal translator struggled to make sense of the alien language. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the UES Ranger. You are entering a hazardous salvage zone. State your intentions and identity." Zixtel looked at his crew. None of them had heard anything like this voice before. It carried an authority that was unmistakable, but also something else. There was no fear in it. The speaker sounded completely comfortable in an environment that had already strained their own ship systems to the limit. "This is Commander Zixtel of the Galactic Council vessel Stars Grace. We are conducting a scientific survey of this system. We mean no harm." A pause followed. Then the alien voice returned, and this time the universal translator was working. "Better? Galactic Council? Never heard of you? Are you in distress? Your ship's showing signs of shield stress, and your navigation looks like you're fighting the local gravity wells." The casual tone shocked the galactic crew. This alien captain was offering help to them. In their own experience, any ship struggling in such conditions would be fighting for survival. Yet this unknown vessel treated the deadly environment as if it were routine. "We are managing our current situation," Zixtel replied carefully. "However, we would be interested in establishing contact with your people. Your species is unknown to our databases." Another pause. "Yeah, that makes sense. We're pretty new to the neighborhood. Tell you what, Commander. This debris field's getting ready to shift. Big chunks of the old planet are going to start moving in about 6 hours when the binary pulsar cycle completes. Why don't you follow us to a safer position and we can talk properly?" Krelvin-S sensor readings confirmed the alien's warning. The debris field was indeed about to become even more dangerous. The fact that these unknowns had predicted the change suggested they understood gravitational mechanics that the Galactic Council's best scientists struggled with. "Very well, Captain Morrison. We accept your guidance." The U's Ranger moved away from the Star's Grace and began leading them through the debris field. What followed was the most terrifying hour of Zixtel's career. The alien ship moved through spaces barely wider than its own hull, dodging between tumbling asteroids and navigating gravitational eddies that would have torn apart most vessels. The Star's Grace followed, its crew gripping their stations as their ship was pushed to its absolute limits. When they finally reached the safer zone, Zixtel realized they had just witnessed something unprecedented. These aliens, whoever they were, had not just survived in an environment that challenged the best galactic technology. They had mastered it. They treated one of the most dangerous regions of space like their own backyard. The implications were staggering. If these beings came from a Class 15 Deathworld, if they could thrive in conditions that would kill most galactic species, then everything the Council believed about the limits of life needed to be reconsidered. "Captain Morrison," Zixtel transmitted, "we would very much like to meet you in person." The docking bay of the UES Ranger was unlike anything the galactic crew had ever seen. Where their own ships featured smooth curves and elegant designs, this human vessel was all angles and brutal efficiency. Every surface showed signs of use and repair. Pipes and conduits ran openly along the walls instead of being hidden behind decorative panels. The air itself felt heavy and rich with oxygen levels that made the aliens feel slightly dizzy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez waited in the bay wearing what the humans called a standard environmental suit. To the galactic visitors, it looked like armor designed for warfare. Thick plates covered her torso and limbs. The helmet was a solid piece with a transparent faceplate that reflected the harsh lighting of the bay. When she moved, servo motors wind softly to assist her movements against what the aliens now realized was crushing gravity. Commander Zixtel stepped carefully from the shuttle, his legs trembling under the increased weight. His environmental suit was working at maximum capacity just to keep him alive. The gravity on this ship was nearly twice what his species considered normal. The radiation levels, while shielded, were still high enough to require constant monitoring. The very air would have been toxic to breathe without filtration. "Welcome aboard the Ranger," Elena said through her suit's external speakers. Her voice was warm but carried an undertone of strength that surprised the aliens. "I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez, our xenobiologist. I guess that makes me the right person to handle first contact." Elena had been studying the alien visitors through their ship's sensors since the first transmission. Their physiology was fascinating but also incredibly fragile compared to human norms. The purple-skinned commander appeared to be struggling with the artificial gravity, even though they had reduced it to what humans considered barely noticeable. "We are honored to meet you, Dr. Rodriguez," Zixtel managed to say. "Though I must ask, are these normal conditions aboard your vessel?" Elena looked around the bay as if seeing it for the first time. This is pretty standard. Actually, we're running a bit light today. Gravity's only at about 8/10 normal, and we've got the radiation shielding cranked up higher than usual. Figured it might be easier for visitors." The casual way she described conditions that were pushing their life support to its limits left the aliens speechless. Krelvan's mandibles clicked rapidly in what his species considered extreme anxiety. "Dr. Rodriguez, what you describe as light. Conditions would be considered highly dangerous by most galactic species." "Really?" Elena sounded genuinely surprised. "Well, I guess we should probably talk about that. Medical bay might be the best place. We can get you set up with some better life support and figure out where you folks come from." The journey to the medical bay revealed more about human civilization than any formal briefing could have. The corridors were wide enough for equipment to be moved quickly. Emergency stations were placed every few meters containing tools and supplies that looked more like industrial equipment than medical devices. Crew members they passed wore simple uniforms but moved with the easy confidence of people completely comfortable in their environment. Chief Engineer Pete Williams was already in the medical bay when they arrived. He was working on what appeared to be a massive piece of machinery, his hands moving confidently among components that sparked and hummed with electrical energy. When he saw the group enter, he casually reached into the mechanism and disconnected, something that made the alien's radiation detector spike alarmingly. "Sorry about that," Pete said, pulling off work gloves that were smoking slightly. "Just finishing up some modifications to the life support systems. Figured you folks might need some cleaner air and lower rad levels." He had been working barehanded in a radiation field that would have required their heaviest protective equipment. His casual attitude toward exposure that would have hospitalized most galactic species was both impressive and terrifying. "Pete's our chief engineer," Elena explained as she began setting up monitoring equipment. "He's been working on ways to make the ship more comfortable for visitors. Though honestly, we're not sure how much we can dial things down without affecting basic systems." Dr. Rodriguez began her examination of the alien visitors with equipment that looked primitive compared to galactic medical technology. However, her readings were incredibly detailed and accurate. She worked with the smooth efficiency of someone who had dealt with hostile environments her entire career. "Fascinating," she murmured as she studied the readouts. "Your bone density is about 60% of what we'd consider normal. Muscle structure is adapted for much lower gravity. And your cardiovascular systems are designed for much thinner atmosphere with lower oxygen content." She looked up from her instruments with genuine curiosity. "Where exactly did you folks evolve?" "Must have been a pretty gentle world to produce physiology like this." The question struck the aliens as completely backwards. They came from worlds that the Galactic Council considered garden paradises. Stable climates, carefully balanced atmospheres, gentle gravity, and minimal radiation. These were the conditions that allowed complex life to flourish throughout the galaxy. "We come from what our people consider ideal worlds," Zixtel replied. "Stable temperatures, protected atmospheres, and safe radiation levels. Our worlds are classified as Class 2 or Class 3 environments, what you might call paradise worlds." Elena frowned as she processed this information. "Paradise worlds? But that doesn't make sense. How did you develop space travel if you never had to deal with environmental challenges?" The question revealed a fundamental difference in thinking that would reshape both species' understanding of evolution and development. For humans, challenges were the driving force of progress. Every disaster had taught them something new. Every environmental threat had made them stronger and more adaptable. Dr. Rodriguez, Kelvin asked carefully, what classification would you assign to your homeworld? Elena paused in her work. Well, I'm not familiar with your classification system, but Earth's a pretty typical terrestrial planet. We've got some weather issues, a few radiation problems from our star, and gravity's a bit on the heavy side. But it's home, you know? She called up a display showing Earth from orbit. The blue and white planet looked beautiful, but the aliens could see the massive storm systems swirling across its surface. The radiation readings from the star were far above safe levels. The gravity well was deep enough to trap most galactic ships if they descended too far into the atmosphere. Your world, Zixtel said slowly, would be classified as uninhabitable by our standards. The radiation levels alone would be lethal to most species. The gravitational stress would crush our bones. The atmospheric pressure would destroy our respiratory systems. Elena stared at him for a long moment. But that's impossible. Millions of species must have evolved on worlds like Earth. I mean, how else would you develop the strength and adaptability needed for space travel? The realization hit both sides simultaneously. Humans had evolved on a world so dangerous that the Galactic Council would have marked it as completely uninhabitable. Yet not only had they survived, they had thrived to the point where they considered their deadly world to be beautiful and peaceful. Pete Williams, who had been listening while he worked, finally spoke up. Wait a minute. Are you telling me that most aliens come from worlds where everything's easy? No storms, no radiation, no real gravity? That is correct, Kelvin confirmed. Such conditions are necessary for the development of complex life. Pete shook his head in amazement. No wonder you folks seem so fragile. You never had to get tough just to survive breakfast. The casual comment highlighted the vast gulf between human and galactic experience. For humans, survival required constant adaptation and strength. For most galactic species, survival was simply a given. Elena began to understand the full implications of what they had discovered. Commander Zixtel, I think we need to have a much longer conversation about where humans fit in your galactic community. Because if we're the first species you've met from what you call a Class 15 Deathworld, then we might have capabilities that could be useful to your people. The aliens exchanged glances that needed no translation. They had stumbled upon something unprecedented. A species that had not just survived in impossible conditions, but had been forged by them into something entirely new. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for humanity, or whether humanity was too dangerous to be unleashed among species that had never known true hardship. As Elena continued her examinations and Pete returned to his work, both sides began to realize that this first contact would change everything they thought they knew about life, evolution, and what it meant to be strong enough to reach for the stars. Navigation Officer Sam Carter joined the group in what the humans called the briefing room. The space was functional and plain, with a large table surrounded by chairs that looked uncomfortable to alien eyes. Wall displays showed star charts and technical readouts that seemed to focus on hazardous conditions rather than safe travel routes. Sam carried a datapad and moved with the easy confidence that all the humans seemed to share in their dangerous environment. Commander Zixtal asked about Earth and how humans developed, Elena explained as Sam settled into his chair. I figured you might want to hear this from our navigation specialist. Sam nodded and activated his datapad. The main display lit up with an image of Earth from space. To the aliens, it looked like a beautiful but terrifying world. Massive storm systems swirled across the surface. The polar ice cap showed the planet was in the grip of an ice age. The continents were scarred with mountain ranges that indicated violent geological activity. Earth's our homeworld, Sam began in the same casual tone all humans used when discussing what the aliens were learning was an impossible planet. She's about 4.5 billion years old. been through a lot of changes in that time. The display shifted to show geological timescales. The aliens watched in growing amazement as Sam described planetary catastrophes that would have sterilized most worlds. Asteroid impacts that threw debris into orbit, volcanic eruptions that changed the climate for thousands of years, ice ages that froze most of the planet's surface. The thing about Earth, Sam continued, is that she never stays stable for very long. Just when life gets comfortable, something happens to shake things up. Keeps evolution moving, you know? Krelvin's mandibles clicked nervously. Officer Carter, the events you describe would end most civilizations. How did your species survive such catastrophes? Sam looked genuinely puzzled by the question. Well, we adapted. That's what life does, right? When things get tough, you either get tougher or you die out. Humans got tougher. He brought up displays showing human development through the ages. The aliens saw creatures that had survived ice ages by learning to control fire. Humans who had crossed frozen land bridges to populate new continents. Civilizations that rebuilt after volcanic eruptions destroyed entire regions. Take the Toba supervolcano eruption about 70,000 years ago, Sam said, highlighting a point on the timeline. Threw so much ash into the atmosphere that global temperatures dropped by several degrees. Might have reduced the human population to just a few thousand individuals. The casual way he described an extinction-level event left the aliens speechless. For most galactic species, such a catastrophe would have ended their evolutionary story. For humans, it was just another challenge to overcome. But we survived, Sam continued, learned to work together better, developed better tools. When the climate recovered, we spread out across the entire planet. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up medical displays showing human physiology. The interesting thing is how all these challenges shaped us. Our immune systems are incredibly robust because we've been fighting diseases for millions of years. Our bones and muscles developed in high gravity with dangerous terrain. Our brains got bigger because survival required complex problem solving. She pointed to comparative charts that showed human capabilities against galactic norms. In every category related to survival and adaptation, humans exceeded what most species considered possible. We consume ethanol for recreation, Elena added with what the aliens were learning was human humor. The same chemical that powers some of your starships, we drink at social gatherings. Our children play games that involve controlled violence. To teach them physical skills, we regularly expose ourselves to harmful solar radiation because we enjoy the warmth. Zixtel felt both his hearts racing as he processed this information. Dr. Rodriguez, what you describe sounds like deliberate self-harm from our perspective. I suppose it might, she admitted. But from our perspective, it's just living. We build our cities in earthquake zones because the land is fertile. We live near volcanoes because the soil is rich. We explore the ocean depths despite crushing pressure because we're curious about what's down there. Sam brought up recordings from Earth's major cities. The aliens watched in fascination and horror as millions of humans went about their daily lives in environments that would require emergency protocols on any galactic world. Children played in gravity that would crush alien bones. Adults worked in atmospheric conditions that would require life support for most species. The really interesting thing, Sam said, is that we don't consider Earth particularly dangerous. Sure, we have weather and geological activity, but that's normal. Makes life interesting. He showed them recordings of humans during natural disasters. Instead of panic and evacuation, the aliens saw organized response teams working together to help survivors. People who treated hurricanes and earthquakes as temporary inconveniences rather than world-ending catastrophes. Hurricane Katrina, earthquake in Japan, wildfires in California, Sam narrated as the recordings played. Bad days, sure, but we rebuild and move on. That's what humans do. The concept was so alien to galactic thinking that the visitors struggled to understand it. Most species avoided any unnecessary risk. They built their civilizations in the safest possible locations and took extensive precautions against even minor environmental changes. The idea of deliberately living in dangerous areas and treating disasters as manageable problems was completely foreign to their experience. Officer Carter, Krelvin asked carefully, do humans consider any environment to be too dangerous to inhabit? Sam thought for a moment. Well, we avoid the really nasty places. Deep ocean trenches, active volcano craters, the upper atmosphere. But even then, we visit those places regularly for research or industrial purposes. We just use appropriate safety equipment. He showed them footage of humans working in conditions that would require the heaviest protective gear available to galactic civilization. Deep-sea researchers in pressurized suits exploring ocean trenches. Volcanologists collecting samples from active lava flows. Astronauts working in the vacuum of space with nothing but thin suits for protection. The vacuum of space is pretty dangerous, Sam admitted. But we've been working there for decades. You just have to be careful and use the right equipment. Elena pulled up psychological profiles showing human mental health statistics. The stress responses are interesting too. Humans actually perform better under moderate pressure. Our problem-solving abilities increase when we're faced with challenges. We get bored and depressed if life is too easy. This revelation shocked the aliens more than anything else they had learned. Most galactic species sought to minimize stress and challenge. Their civilizations were built around creating stable, peaceful environments where individuals could live without worry. The idea that humans actually needed difficulty to maintain psychological health was completely contrary to their understanding of mental wellness. So Earth shaped us, Elena concluded. But we also shaped ourselves. Every generation faced new challenges and found new solutions. We learned to thrive in chaos because chaos was all we ever knew, Sam nodded in agreement. The funny thing is, we love our planet. Yeah, she tries to kill us on a regular basis. But she's beautiful and diverse and alive in ways that most worlds can't match. All that danger creates incredible variety in life forms and environments. He showed them images of Earth's diverse biomes. Tropical rainforests where every plant and animal was engaged in constant evolutionary warfare. Arctic regions where life survived in conditions that would freeze most galactic species solid. Deserts where organisms had adapted to extreme heat and water scarcity. Every environment on Earth is somebody's paradise, Sam said. Even the ones that would kill most visitors in minutes. The aliens realized they were looking at something unprecedented in their understanding of evolution and civilization. Humans had not succeeded despite their world's hostility. They had succeeded because of it. Every challenge had made them stronger, more adaptable, and more capable of handling the unexpected. Commander Zixtel, Elena said quietly, I think we need to discuss what this means for contact between our species. Because if we're the first successful civilization from what you call a Class 15 Deathworld, then we might have capabilities that could benefit the entire galactic community. The implications were staggering. A species that thrived on challenge and change could revolutionize galactic civilization. But the same qualities that made humans valuable allies might also make them dangerous neighbors. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for a species that considered the impossible to be merely another interesting problem to solve. The emergency alarms on the Star's Grace began wailing just as the cultural exchange was reaching its most interesting point. Commander Zixtel's communication device crackled with panicked reports from his ship. The debris field they had navigated earlier was shifting faster than predicted, and his vessel was caught in an expanding gravity well near the system's binary pulsar. Commander, we have a critical situation, his chief engineer's voice carried through the communicator. The pulsar's rotation has accelerated beyond our calculations. We're being pulled into a gravity gradient that our engines cannot escape. Hull stress is approaching critical levels. Captain Jake Morrison was in the briefing room within minutes of the alert. His calm demeanor didn't change as he assessed the situation, but Elena noticed the slight tension in his shoulders that indicated he was already planning their response. The human captain studied the sensor readings with the focused attention of someone who had faced similar crises before. How long do you have before hull failure? Morrison asked, his voice carrying the authority that came from years of commanding. Ships in dangerous environments. At current stress levels, perhaps 2 hours, Zixtel replied, his purple skin now pale with fear. Our engines are not designed for sustained operation against such gravitational forces. We cannot break free. Morrison nodded once and activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We have a rescue operation. Prepare for high radiation environment protocols. Lisa, get us ready for gravity well. Navigation. Tony, I need external maintenance capabilities in pulsar radiation fields. The casual way he issued orders for what the aliens recognized as an extremely dangerous operation amazed them. The human crew responded with the same matter-of-fact efficiency they had shown in all their activities. There was no panic, no extensive planning sessions, just immediate preparation for conditions that would challenge the best galactic emergency response teams. Chief Pilot Lisa Turner arrived on the bridge wearing a flight suit that looked more like armor than normal pilot gear. Her helmet incorporated radiation shielding that would have been considered industrial safety equipment by galactic standards. She moved with the easy confidence of someone who had flown through hazardous conditions many times before. Captain, I've plotted 3 possible approach vectors, Lisa reported, calling up navigation displays that showed the complex gravitational fields around the pulsar. The safest route adds 40 minutes to our response time but keeps us outside the worst radiation bands. Too long, Morrison replied without hesitation. What's the fastest approach? Lisa highlighted a trajectory that passed dangerously close to the pulsar itself. The radiation levels along that route would require their heaviest shielding and put enormous stress on their ship's systems. This path gets us there in 20 minutes, but we'll be flying through radiation that would fry most electronics. Can the Ranger handle it? She's built for Sol system operations, Captain. Jupiter radiation, solar flares, asteroid mining. This pulsar's hot, but it's not worse than working the Jovian moons. The casual comparison shocked the aliens. Humans routinely operated in radiation environments that most galactic species would consider instantly lethal, what they called normal. Operations would require emergency protocols and specialized equipment for any other civilization. Take us in fast, Morrison ordered. Sam, coordinate with the Star's Grace. I want constant updates on their hull integrity. The used Ranger turned toward the gravity well with the same confident movement it had shown navigating the debris field. The human ship accelerated into conditions that would have destroyed most galactic vessels, its crude but robust construction proving superior to more elegant designs that couldn't handle extreme environments. Maintenance Specialist Tony Garcia was already preparing for external operations when the ship reached the edge of the gravity well. His work suit was a marvel of engineering that provided protection against radiation, pressure variations, and the gravitational stresses they were about to encounter. To the aliens, it looked like an individual spacecraft designed for one person. Tony, I need you to attach tow cables to the Star's Grace, Morrison explained over the communication system. We can't dock in these conditions, but we can pull them out of the gravity well. Understood, Captain, Tony replied, his voice calm despite the fact that he was about to work outside the ship in radiation levels that would kill most galactic species instantly. How much time do I have for the attachment? The window is narrow. Maybe 10 minutes before the radiation exposure becomes problematic even for us. Tony sealed his helmet and moved to the airlock with the same routine efficiency. He might show for any maintenance task. The fact that he was about to work in the vacuum of space while being bombarded by deadly radiation didn't seem to concern him at all. Lisa piloted the Ranger through gravitational fields that twisted space itself around the ship, the human vessels. Robust construction allowed it to handle stresses that would have torn apart more sophisticated but delicate craft. The radiation levels climbed to readings that forced even the human crew to retreat to shielded sections of the ship. Radiation's getting spicy out there, Lisa reported with typical human understatement, but the ship's holding together fine. The aliens watched in amazement as Tony Garcia worked outside the Ranger in conditions that would have been instantly fatal to them. He moved with practiced efficiency, attaching massive tow cables to the star's grace while space around him blazed with radiation from the pulsar. His suit systems monitored the deadly environment, but Tony worked as if he were performing routine maintenance in a safe docking bay. Cables attached, Tony reported after 8 minutes of work that would have been impossible for most galactic species. The star's grace is ready for tow. Morrison coordinated the rescue with the same calm competence he had shown throughout the crisis. The range's engines, designed to operate in the harsh environment of Earth's solar system, provided the power needed to pull the galactic ship free from the gravity well. What should have been an impossible rescue became a routine operation for humans, who had learned to treat the impossible as merely another engineering problem. As they cleared the dangerous zone, the crew of the Star's Grace found themselves safe, but fundamentally changed by what they had witnessed. The humans had risked their lives and their ship to save aliens they had just met, and they had done so with a casual competence that suggested such rescues were routine rather than heroic. "Captain Morrison," Zixtel transmitted once his ship was clear of immediate danger, "we owe you our lives. The conditions you operated in would have destroyed any ship in our fleet." "Just glad we could help," Morrison replied with typical human modesty. "Though I have to say, your ship held together better than I expected in that gravity well." "Good. Engineering." The fact that the human captain was praising galactic engineering after performing what amounted to a miracle rescue highlighted the vast difference in their perspectives. What the aliens considered impossible, humans treated as simply another day's work. Dr. Rodriguez had monitored the entire rescue operation from the medical bay, where she had prepared treatment stations for both human and alien crew members in case of emergency. Her casual preparations for treating radiation poisoning and gravitational stress injuries showed how routine such dangers were in human space operations. "The interesting thing," Elena observed as she reviewed the biological data from the rescue, "is that human stress responses actually improve our performance in crisis situations. Our adrenaline system enhances reflexes and decision-making under pressure." The aliens realized they had just witnessed something that would reshape their understanding of what was possible in space operations. Humans didn't just survive in dangerous environments, they excelled in them. They had turned crisis management into an art form and made the impossible look routine. As both ships moved to a safer position, the galactic crew began to understand that they had encountered something unprecedented. A species that had not just survived their impossible homeworld, but had been forged by it into something that could handle any challenge the universe might offer. The question now was what this meant for the galaxy as a whole and whether other species were ready to learn from neighbors who considered miracles to be simply another day at the office. The quantum communication array aboard the Star's Grace had never carried a transmission as important as the one Commander Zixtel was preparing to send. 3 days had passed since the rescue, 3 days of continuous contact with humanity that had fundamentally changed his understanding of what life could achieve. Now he stood before the communication console, knowing that his words would reach the Galactic Council and alter the course of civilization itself. Communications specialist Maria Santos worked alongside the galactic crew to establish the connection. Her expertise with human technology had proven invaluable in creating a stable link across the vast distances to the galactic core. She moved between alien systems and human equipment with the easy adaptability that characterized her species, solving compatibility problems that would have taken galactic engineers weeks to resolve. "The connection is stable," Maria reported, her voice carrying the quiet confidence that all humans seem to possess when working with complex technology. "You should have clear transmission to the council chambers." Admiral Helen Parker had arrived aboard the Star's Grace for the historic transmission. The human admiral carried herself with the dignity appropriate for first contact between civilizations, but also with the underlying strength that came from a lifetime of commanding ships in dangerous environments. Her presence aboard the alien vessel demonstrated humanity's commitment to peaceful relations while also showcasing their ability to adapt to any environment. "Honored counselors," Zixtel began his transmission. I am reporting from the Kepler 442 system, where my survey mission has made a discovery that will require fundamental revision of our understanding of life, evolution, and the possibilities of civilization. The main display showed the assembled Galactic Council, representatives of dozens of species from across the galaxy. Their comfortable council chambers, with carefully controlled environments and elegant architecture, stood in stark contrast to the functional efficiency of human ship design. Each counselor came from worlds that the galaxy considered ideal for life, worlds where survival was guaranteed and challenges were minimal. We have encountered a functioning starship crewed by beings from a Class 15 Deathworld. Not only have these humans survived conditions that our models indicate should be impossible for complex life, they have developed advanced technology and space travel capabilities that exceed our own in several critical areas. The murmur of disbelief from the Council was audible even across the quantum link. Class 15 Deathworlds existed only in theoretical models as examples of planets where life could never develop. The idea that such a world had actually produced a spacefaring civilization challenged everything the galaxy understood about evolution and survival. Counselor Velthara of the Crystalline Collective spoke first, her voice carrying the musical tones of her silicon-based species. Commander Zixtel, you must be mistaken. Our models clearly show that Class 15 environments are incompatible with the development of complex life. Perhaps you have misclassified their homeworld. Admiral Parker stepped forward to address the Council directly. Her voice carried across space with the authority of someone who had commanded fleets through dangerous regions that most species would never dare to approach. Counselor, I am Admiral Helen Parker of the Earth Defense Force. I can assure you that our homeworld would indeed qualify as what you call a Class 15 environment. We consider it a beautiful and relatively peaceful planet. The casual way she described what the Council considered an impossible world left the alien leaders speechless. Elena Rodriguez had provided comprehensive data about Earth's environmental conditions, and the readings were clear. Radiation levels that would require emergency protocols, gravity that would crush most galactic species, and atmospheric conditions that would be toxic to the majority of known life forms. Admiral Parker, Counselor Zixven of the Aquatic Federation, inquired, "How did your species develop space travel technology while dealing with such hostile environmental conditions?" The hostile conditions were exactly what drove our technological development, Helen replied with the matter-of-fact tone that humans used when discussing what others considered miraculous achievements. Every challenge forced us to innovate. Every disaster taught us new solutions. We didn't develop space travel despite our environment. We developed it because our environment demanded that we become stronger and more capable. Sam Carter had prepared comprehensive displays showing human technological development. The Council watched in amazement as he demonstrated how each environmental challenge had led to technological breakthroughs. Earthquake-resistant architecture? That led to advanced materials science. Weather prediction systems that evolved into complex computer modeling. Radiation shielding developed for space exploration that made interplanetary travel routine for humans. The pattern is consistent throughout human history, Sam explained. Every time we faced a problem that should have ended our civilization, we found a way to not just survive but to use the challenge as a stepping stone to greater capabilities. Maria Santos added her perspective on human adaptability. We've learned that the key to survival isn't avoiding problems, it's developing the flexibility to handle whatever comes up. Our entire culture is built around the idea that there's always a solution if you're willing to work hard enough to find it. The Council members exchanged glances that needed no translation across species barriers. They were looking at something that violated their fundamental assumptions about life and civilization. For millions of years, galactic society had been built on the principle of avoiding challenges and maintaining stable, safe environments. The idea that difficulty and danger could actually be beneficial was completely alien to their experience. Counselor Mordick of the Hive Worlds posed the question that was on every Council member's mind. Admiral Parker, what do humans want from The galactic community? Helen's response was simple but carried implications that would reshape interstellar relations. We want to join as equals and partners. We have capabilities that might be useful to other species, and we're always interested in learning new things. But we won't be treated as primitives just because we come from a world that others consider dangerous. The rescue of the Star's Grace had already demonstrated human capabilities that exceeded anything in the galactic fleet. Their casual competence in handling impossible conditions had shown that they could operate effectively in environments where other species would require massive technological support or couldn't operate at all. Dr. Rodriguez had compiled medical data showing human biological capabilities that seemed impossible by galactic standards. Immune systems that could handle toxins and diseases that would be fatal to most species. Physical strength and endurance that allowed them to work in gravity fields that would crush alien bones. Mental resilience that actually improved under stress rather than degrading. The medical data alone suggests applications that could revolutionize galactic healthcare, Elena transmitted to the Council. Human immune system research could provide protection against diseases that currently have no treatment. Our stress response mechanisms could help other species develop better crisis management capabilities. But the implications went far beyond medicine or technology. Humanity represented a completely different approach to existence itself. Where galactic civilizations sought to eliminate challenges, humans embraced them as opportunities for growth. Where other species built walls against danger, humans built strength to face it directly. Tony Garcia, still wearing his maintenance suit from the recent rescue operation, provided a simple demonstration that spoke more than any technical presentation. He casually lifted a piece of equipment that would have required mechanical assistance for most galactic species to move. The everyday nature of his superhuman strength highlighted how thoroughly humans had adapted to their impossible world. Counselors, Admiral Parker concluded, we're not asking for special treatment or accommodation. We're offering partnership between equals. Humans have learned to thrive in chaos and find opportunity in crisis. These skills might be valuable as the galaxy faces whatever challenges lie ahead. The long silence from the council chambers spoke volumes about the impact of humanity's revelation. They were being asked to accept into their community a species that challenged every assumption about life, survival, and civilization. The question now was whether the galaxy was ready for neighbors who considered the impossible to be merely another interesting problem to solve. Commander Zixtel provided his final assessment to the Council. Honored counselors, I recommend immediate acceptance of humanity into full galactic citizenship, not as junior members to be guided and protected, but as equals whose unique capabilities could benefit every species in our community. We have much to learn from beings who have turned survival itself into an art form. The transmission ended with the image of human and alien crews working together aboard both ships, proof that cooperation between species was not only possible but beneficial. The galaxy would never be the same, because for the first time in galactic history, they had encountered a species that had been forged by adversity into something stronger than anyone had thought possible.